How are we doing today? We are here to break down the hottest Bachelor Nation news stories of the week. So welcome back to our channel. And before we get into it, you guys know what you gotta do. Give this video a big thumbs up and let's start the live chat going so that we can hear your questions and comments and opinions on all of the hottest Bachelor Nation news. As always, I'm your host, Zachary Reality, joined by Gianna Gravelisi and Allison Van Dam. Gianna, Allison, Bachelor Nation truly never sleeps. We're on the off season, but yet we still have so much to talk about today. How are we doing today on this fine Wednesday?
I was just about to say, thank God it's Friday. So that's where my brain is at this week. And I don't know if it has to do with all of this Bachelor craziness, among other celebrity news craziness in the headlines this week, but there's so much going on. So I am ready.
Love it.
Yeah, I feel like we wrapped things up with Clayton's season. We all wanted a break. And like you said, Bachelor Nation just doesn't sleep. And we have older couples coming in with bachelorette parties and moving in together. And we have Clayton and Susie. And there's never a dull moment in Bachelor Nation.
Yeah, there truly isn't. So let's go through some of the hottest highlights of the week, starting off with Abigail and Noah, who gave an update on their relationship. Now, this week they went on the Bachelor Happy Hour podcast, hosted by Becca and now Michelle Young, and they talked all about their relationship post Paradise. Now, Abigail says she reached out to Noah as soon as they got home from the beach, looking for closure, and then they started talking again, which sounded a little familiar to the Susie and Clayton situation. But I will continue. She says the first 8 months of their relationship was long distance as they were traveling from Oregon to meet Abigail's family, Oklahoma to meet Noah's family, and New York, where Abigail was living at the time. We're going to get into the fact that they just moved in together, but I wanted to talk a little bit about this Paradise situation because there was a lot of rumors that they had to fake their breakup for the show since they weren't getting engaged. Abigail and Noah have denied those rumors, but Gianna, it sounds a little fishy how they were able to get right back together. And I mean, they were doing long distance for a while. Are you surprised that they have made it work? We're almost a year out since Paradise, started filming last year.
I'm really not surprised in these two just because out of all of the couples, I had so much faith in them, even when they did break up on the beach. And I'm sure I can say this and speak for everyone when I could say that was so emotional and confusing. And it felt like it came out of left field. So I still do believe that there's like a little bit of gray area with that and with producers kind of influencing their breakup a little bit. And I also believe, I mean, for me, I can say vacationing with friends or a significant other, especially when you're out of the country, especially when you've been there for a long time and you're just hot and discombobulated, things tend to fall apart for no reason. So maybe that was the situation as well. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. But I'm glad, regardless, that they got back together. I knew that they would because they were just so perfect. I mean, these two really seem like they were meant to be, and I absolutely loved them. And Noah even said in the very first episode that he was waiting to see Abigail. So it was just a match made in heaven for these two. And I'm glad that they're thriving, and I'm not shocked in the slightest.
Yeah, they're definitely thriving as they officially have moved in together in Huntington Beach, California. So Noah is currently doing a nursing program since he is a travel nurse. So it's like a 6 or 8 month nursing situation here. And they don't know if they will live in California forever, but Abigail has made the move. She moved in with him and they are definitely plan on being together for the long haul. Abigail says she likes California over New York because she can easily go to Trader Joe's to get groceries versus walking up flights of stairs from her tiny apartment in New York City. So, Allison, do we think LA is better than New York for that reason? It seems like Abigail is really enjoying herself. And do you think it's smart for them to move in together as a couple before getting engaged and ready to take those next steps? Because I don't think there's going to be a ring anytime soon.
Yeah, I think LA versus New York, the pros of one is always going to be the cons of the other. Like LA is so spread
Mhm.
out, you have a lot more space. It also means longer car rides or really expensive Ubers as opposed to New York where you can jump on the subway. New York, you walk out and you're automatically brought into the scene, the nightlife, but it can also be very overwhelming. So if they wanted, a more slower pace of life, they want more space, they want to be out in nature, I think California is definitely the place to go for that. And I think moving in is smart because I know a lot of couples who were very set on marriage or were very serious, and then suddenly they lived together and they realized there were things they couldn't get over. They had very different styles of living. And, we even see that in shows like Love is Blind. Suddenly things are very, very different when you're living together nonstop. So I think it's definitely a smart move to do before you're debating getting engaged. And I don't think there's any rush in terms of getting engaged or a wedding. I mean, I'm sure we're going to talk about JoJo and Jordan at some point, but they are kind of the first couple that comes to mind of they've played the long game. And I have no doubt that when they finally do get married, hopefully in May, that they are going to be, married forever. And they found their soulmates because they weren't rushing to the altar and they took time to get to know each other.
They weren't rushing to the altar like our dear friends on Love is Blind. But Allison, do you think Noah and Abigail are in it? Do you see them together forever? And if so, when do you think they will get engaged? Because it doesn't sound like they know where they're going to be living for the foreseeable future. They're just kind of settled in, California for now.
I think I can definitely see them going long term, going for, the long haul because of the fact that they were so drama free throughout all of Bachelor in Paradise. They seemed to fit really well. They were very comfortable. And I think maybe that was part of the hesitation and part of the breakup in Paradise because you see these other couples fighting for love and there's drama. And I think a lot of us can see, frustration and conflict as, oh, such burning, passionate love. But I think some of the best relationships that I've seen on screen and off are just these casual, easy, almost friendships that turn into relationships. So while I think maybe they were maybe a boring couple to watch on television, they're a couple that's actually going to really last in real life. And I think it's smart of them to not put down roots in any specific place, try things out, see which city they like, not only as individuals, but as a couple. And I'm excited to maybe see a wedding or some Noah and Abigail babies in a few years. I think they'd be really cute.
I have high hopes for them as well. I think we'll get the babies and everything with them in their own time, but they're kind of just like really chilling and living life. They are a little bit of a boring couple, but I think boring couples, I mean, maybe they're boring for TV, but they're probably not boring in real life. They definitely seem super fun, but they are just drama free. There really is no drama with them. And I noticed that as I was listening to the podcast. Sometimes we listen to these podcasts and we're looking for the tea or some of the dirt. You're not going to get that with Abigail and Noah. They really only had, positive things to say. There was a little bit of drama that was like fake drama where like Blake Moynes was posting like, flirty pictures with Abigail, or he was flirting with her on Instagram. And then like Noah was just like, oh yeah, we're all friends. We share the same publicist. It's all good. So there really isn't too much there. But let's continue on to our next story because former Bachelorette Andi Dorfman is engaged. The Bachelorette, or former Bachelorette, got engaged over the weekend to her boyfriend, Blaine. They were on the beach at one of their favorite spots in LA, and when Andi turned around to look at the water, he was down on one knee. Blaine took it one step further, surprising Andi when he told her they were going to stay at a hotel, so they had to drive back to her place so she can pack a bag. And when they opened the door, there was Andi's friends and family, her nieces and nephew, there to surprise her. They all flew into California and make her proposal super, super special. Gianna, how does this sound as a proposal? I think proposals are different for every couple. It sounds like Andi got exactly what she wanted.
Oh, 10 out of 10. I'm a very minimalistic gal when it comes to proposals and proposals that I think are cute because I mean, yeah, going big and over the top with the roses and the walkway, and if you get proposed to at Disney, that's all a little bit overdone. So, in my opinion, just something simple on the beach and then having close family and friends is perfect. So, I think that this was the ideal proposal. I mean, her ring is huge, it's gorgeous, and these two look so happy together. I mean, look at how freaking cute, too. I mean, the proposal on the beach also makes for stunning photos, such as this one that she posted. And I just love it. Like, it makes me feel like forever alone in a way because it's so adorable. And I'm like, why can't somebody do that for me at some point? But I think my favorite part of the whole thing was the fact that, her family and friends flew into California to surprise the both of them. So I absolutely adore these two, and I loved that whole proposal idea.
Well, someone will do it for you, Gianna. I promise you. Andi was actually single for many, many years before she started dating Blaine. Andi was originally on Juan Pablo's season of The Bachelor, where she got top 3, and she famously said it's not okay to The Bachelor. And then she became the Bachelorette and got engaged to Josh Murray, and they had a very public, toxic breakup where they were dating each other for many years to come. And Andi famously wrote her book, Single State of Mind, where she wrote all about being a single, independent woman. She was living in New York for literally like 5 or 6 years single before reconnecting with Blaine, who she actually met in Italy over a decade ago. So she kept this relationship with Blaine private for the first 6 months of dating. She teased pictures with us for us. I don't know if you guys remember, she posted like his hand and the back of his head on her Instagram before sharing his face. She said that she wanted to protect him from the public eye. And now they're engaged after going public a few months ago, and they're ready to start planning a wedding in Italy, which is where they first met. So, Allison, what I'm taking away, and I feel like she said this, is that they kind of dated a little bit like a decade ago. So, what do you think of getting back with an ex? And I mean, Italy, not a bad place to get married.
Yeah, I completely agree with the Italy thing. I think it's great to reconnect with someone from like a previous part of your life, especially someone like Andi who was in the public eye. I think we see that with movie stars, athletes. They love to connect or date or even marry people from previous chapters of their lives, people who knew them before they were public figures. And I think it just
Mm-hmm.
results in a much more grounded relationship, and they knew you before anyone else knew you. So I'm really excited for them. And I
Exactly.
loved, reading articles that, they reconnected 15 years later. And I'm just excited that she can kind of get her happy ending. And it was slightly more out of the spotlight than her time on The Bachelor and Bachelorette. So I think we'll be seeing some very beautiful wedding photos from Italy, and I'm very excited.
Yeah, absolutely. I like what you put the nail on the coffin. It's nice to kind of meet people before you become this public figure, because then, your perceptions change. And I think anyone who ends up in the public eye, you really never know who you can trust again, especially when it comes to a relationship. So it's nice that she was able to kind of find that comfort with someone she met a long, long time ago. Moving on, Kaitlyn Bristowe is triggered by seeing 2 bachelorettes. So, I mean, it wasn't long ago before there was once 2 bachelorettes in one season before Rachel and Gabby. During Kaitlyn Bristowe's season, it was originally her and Britt as leads, and the men had to vote on night 1 who they wanted to keep as the lead moving forward for the rest of the season, and the majority of the men chose Kaitlyn. Now, Kaitlyn talked a little bit about this in a recent interview. She says, I was like, oh my gosh, can't a woman have her own season? It feels like Claire Crawley, and then it was Tayshia. It feels like Katie Thurston, and then it was Michelle. And now it's 2 bachelorettes again. Gianna, we kind of talked a little bit about this. Why are they not doing this to the men? Why are they always pitting the women against each other and making 2 women instead of just 1 woman?
Oh, I think in retrospect, the main thing that Jesse Palmer said after the final rose was the thing that they loved most about Rachel and Gabby were the fact that they were always supporting each other at the end of the day. Even when Clayton was playing the both of them, they were both dating Clayton at the same time. They had nothing but respect for each other. There was even a moment where I think Gabby was talking to Clayton and she was like, sorry, Rachel, sorry that took a long time. Like they were just always putting each other first,
Mhm.
even before Clayton. And I think a lot of people love to see that. I think it is like a sign of women empowerment, women supporting women. And that's what I want to think in my head. I don't want to think that the producers are being evil and pitting women against each other left and right. I'm really hoping that this season is a less toxic one, and I hope that we never ever even get a single moment of Gabby and Rachel being against each other for any reason whatsoever. But yeah, let's do it to the men. If you want to do it to the women, do it to the men. I mean, I don't know why we haven't done it yet, and I think that would be crazy because we know that the women on The Bachelor are extra freaking crazy. I think people would get physical if there were 2 bachelors, honestly. I can totally
Ooh.
see that happening. But yeah, it is interesting that they haven't done it to the men yet. But I think with women, it's just because, they're so much more outspoken, they're powerful, and it's this whole notion of women empowerment. So that's again why I'm hoping in my brain that they're doing that. I don't want to think it's because of a negative reason.
Yeah, I mean, also, it's like Rachel and Gabby kind of went through the experience together. As you mentioned, Gianna, they went through the public breakup together. So it kind of only made sense that they would both be the Bachelorettes. You couldn't really leave one of them hanging without, a happy ending, especially because Clayton went back to Susie. Is there any guys, Allison, you think would be a good duo for a Bachelor season if they ever did do two Bachelors in the future?
Oh, I mean, one of them is currently dating, but if he became single again, can you
Ooh.
imagine Greg and Andrew S. as two bachelors together? I
Mhm.
mean, they are like the funniest. I've sat in a room with both of them. Like, they're the funniest. They pick up everything. Like, it is a nonstop comedy show. They are bros through and through. They're roommates. I would love to see the two of them do a season. They might just end up together though, would be the only thing. They might not choose a woman, but I love
Yeah.
them.
Kind of like James and Aaron on Paradise. It was like the same
Yeah,
energy,
exactly.
and then they ended up together on each other's back. I thought you meant together in a different way, which I wouldn't be opposed to watching. But you never really know what could happen on these shows. These bromances are real, sometimes a little too real. But I think Rachel and Gabby are going to do a good job. But the thing is, Kaitlyn Bristowe just felt a little bit of PTSD. And now, while a lot of people are rallying around Kaitlyn Bristowe and, agreeing that it's not fair to put these women against each other, there is another side to this because Kaitlyn was also a little salty that she wasn't asked back to host the next Bachelorette season. And after catching up with Tayshia over the weekend while she attended some Oscars parties, she finally spoke out to the news outlets explaining that the franchise called her and Kaitlyn weeks prior to let them know that they were going to move forward with Jesse, which doesn't necessarily align with what Kaitlyn said about being blindsided. So, Gianna, do we think Kaitlyn is a little salty? Do we think there's a little miscommunication in what Tayshia was trying to say? Because it's not necessarily lining up here.
Yeah, I think it has to do with miscommunication or no communication at all. And Caitlyn is definitely a little salty. And if I were in her position, I mean, us being aspiring hosts ourselves, and then it's like we get a little taste of what it's like, and then boom, like actually no, we're gonna go with Jesse instead. Bye, type of thing. I would also be salty. So putting myself in her shoes, I can attest to the saltiness, and I don't blame her whatsoever. It would be different if they were like maybe hinting behind the scenes, like stick around, you may be the host, you may be the host, you may be the host, and then like blindsided her completely. Like it sounds like we still don't know the full situation in a sense. So again, I don't blame Caitlyn for being salty in the slightest. And who knows, like maybe she can host Paradise. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Although we're rooting for
Mm.
Wells, maybe Caitlyn will be on the beach. I mean, who knows? I feel like she would do well in that position.
Yeah, I mean, she was at After the Final Rose, so maybe the producers kind of egged her on a little bit to get her there, only to go with Jesse. Allison, what's your take on the situation? Because she did say she was blindsided, and Tayshia is saying we got a call weeks before.
I think it also comes down to whether, whenever they heard about the news, they have always delivered statements and their presence on TV very differently. Tayshia has always
Hmm.
operated from this very like above the fray, classy, very much a host type. And Kaitlyn has always been very raw and honest and let everyone in on it and is drinking her wine. And that's why people love them for very different reasons. So they could have had a conversation with producers a couple weeks before. Maybe it was still up in the air. Maybe they hinted at something, but Kaitlyn was still holding out hope. And I wouldn't be surprised that they got the same information, but interpreted it very differently and decided to share it very differently with people. I think, as we've seen with Tayshia, she's moved on to other gigs. She's kind of taking a pause from
Hmm.
Bachelor Nation. So it doesn't surprise me that she doesn't want to get into the weeds of exactly when, things happen, how she felt about them. She just wants to be done, as opposed to Kaitlyn, who does share everything with her audience and is going to be honest about the
Hmm.
fact that she was really devastated. Maybe she was holding out hope that something would change last minute, especially because there was two of them last minute and then she was one of two. I don't know. I'm trying to think of reasons
Yeah.
why Kaitlyn might have still been holding out hope, but I think it just comes down to they've both chosen to have very different platforms and share different amounts of their personal life with viewers. So maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think they are two very different women and they interpreted things differently. They're different types of hosts. Tasha has been hosting on E! News all week and she's been kind of getting into more talk show TV. So that's a little bit more surface level than I guess Kaitlyn, who's like on her podcast, like just like crying and she says everything. She even got engaged on her podcast to Jason Tartick. So they're just two different women. So I wouldn't say that neither of them is wrong. I think it's just a little bit of a miscommunication or whatever on how they, share things or interpret things. So I agree with both of you guys. And I guess Kaitlyn and Jason are planning their wedding, which is going to be sometime later this year, hopefully. Gianna, do we think that will be the wedding of the year? Because JoJo and Jordan are also getting married in the next couple of months. So we got some weddings to look forward to.
I mean, how do we get invited? I feel like they need to invite us there. I feel like we need to be covering the weddings. There's so many weddings to look forward to. I feel like Kaitlyn and Jason, for some reason, even though Kaitlyn is very out there and such, I don't know if they'll have one of those giant, crazy, over the top weddings, especially since Jason's like way more low key than her, I feel like. And, he's very like business minded, business oriented, and things like that. So I think they'll find a happy medium. I mean, maybe some sort of beach type of thing, just nice and simple, elegant. And I think there will be so many people from Bachelor Nation at this wedding, though, just because of how involved she has been and still is. So I think that we'll be seeing so many Instagram stories, so many posts from whatever that night will be. And again, we got to all try to figure out how we can get there because I feel like we
Yeah.
really need to crash the wedding.
We definitely need to crash it. Shared news takes over Bachelor weddings. But yeah, Kaitlyn really is the face of this franchise. She and Nick, I feel like, stay the most relevant, especially with their podcast. And speaking of Kaitlyn's podcast, we have another exclusive interview from Katie and John. They just did their first interview together on a podcast as a couple, and Blake Moynes is responding. So Katie and John, just to kind of get into them, they went on Kaitlyn Bristowe's podcast, Off the Vine, and they talked about how they were able to build a foundation as friends first before anything romantic ever happened. Katie says she sent John home early, even though she initially liked him and caught her eye because John didn't, he kind of fumbled the bag. He was awkward on camera, and John admits that it was not his environment, the producers, cameraman, that's not how he is able to build an authentic relationship. So the two of them were able to reconnect through the show, which we kind of already know, and they shared big news that they have moved in together. So John moved into Katie's apartment, and they are having so much fun with Katie's cat, Tommy, and their new van, Leroy. They are not engaged after sparking some rumors after a beach photo shoot they had. They are definitely not engaged and don't plan on getting engaged anytime soon, but they are in it for the long haul as they just moved in together. Allison, what do we think of Katie and John? They had a lot of backlash at first, but now it's been a minute and they're living together. So are you kind of happy and surprised at the way things worked out?
I think definitely surprise is a great word to use. I think she received a lot of negative feedback, not so much of her finding someone else, but I think the timing in which she shared that very quickly after everything with Blake ended. Suddenly she was posting these TikTok montages and really cute music and videos of them. So clearly they were very happy. I just think maybe from like a PR marketing standpoint, maybe not the best timing on all of that. But I really do wish them the best, especially, I wish Blake the best as well, because I feel like he probably was even more blindsided than the rest of America because he was the one engaged to her. So even though there's all these questions of overlap and emotional cheating and all this other stuff, I truly I want Katie to find someone. I want Blake to find someone, and just everyone go their separate ways, because I think we just need less drama, and I would love to not see any more headlines of Blake and Katie for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, this has kind of been going on for a minute. And I mean, what Katie kind of did say on the podcast is that she had to go in hiding when she was dating Blake. So she wasn't necessarily trying to like flaunt John in everyone's faces, but it was just like she didn't want to hide anymore after what she just went through. She just wanted to live her life. She was finally allowed to go out in public after having to like do so many things privately from the show. So she really just wanted to embrace her relationship with John. And they had this foundation first. first, which is why they were able to become so, intimate quickly, I guess, because they were friends for a while. Now, getting into the Blake of it all, because John is finally weighing his opinion on the Blake situation, because he never has. John reveals he did see Katie suffer as a friend at the end of her relationship with Blake. We know they all hung out as friends together. John says he noticed Katie was putting in all the effort and Blake wasn't reciprocating, and he even goes one step further to say that he believes Blake was capitalizing off of the fame in the show and milking the public breakup to take advantage of it. Now, Blake did respond on Instagram while answering questions on a Q&A, saying everyone is entitled to their opinions. So let's take a look at what Blake had to say on his Instagram story. I think it's going to tell a lot. So let's roll the clip.
We're all entitled to our opinions. They haven't spoken anything up to this point. They're allowed to have their opinions and share their side of things. But we all just want this to go away, and so I will not ignite it, and we'll just diffuse it, and it's all good.
He's saying he doesn't want to ignite it. He doesn't want to diffuse it. So he's not really saying much. Now, he did say on Daily Pop last week that he still believes there was emotional cheating in the relationship with Katie and John, but not physical cheating. Gianna, what do we think of his story? Is this going to put it all to bed?
I don't know, because he didn't give a definitive answer, and I think that's all Bachelor Nation wants from both like Katie and Blake, even though we should be all just getting over it as a whole, because Katie moved on. Blake, I'm sure, is in the process of moving on, and it is what it is. I just want to say, like, the situation as a whole is so interesting, because throwback to Katie's season, I think we can all remember when we found out that Blake was the one that was showing up mid-season. We were all just like, really, like, again, like, he's been in the headlines before. He knows how this all works out. And I think he may thrive off of getting attention on social media, just because I'm like, why else would you show up on another Bachelorette season? You know what I mean? So I think that's why he's kind of milking it just a little bit. Please, Bachelor Nation gods, don't let him show up on Gabby and Rachel's season. I will flip out. But yeah, I just think it was nice to finally hear from Katie and especially John, because clearly John doesn't like the camera. We haven't really heard much from him. We didn't see much from him on Katie's season. I think it's so funny for Katie to say that he was awkward and him to fully be like, yeah, I really was awkward. Because
Yeah.
I think, again, it just circles back to the point that we always make about these couples. We said it about Clayton and Susie. We've said it about everybody else. Andi now. The couples that stay together or get together in the untraditional way, not through the actual show's process, are the ones that stay together and work out. So I think that Katie and John do have a good chance of staying together, just because they had that friendship foundation. And John didn't even go that far throughout her season, so it's not like he has all this fame and glory either. So I think I have high hopes for them. But yeah, let's put it to bed, both of them, all together.
Well, it seems like Blake kind of understands that John and Katie never did an interview together. John has never even done a podcast. This was his first podcast. So I guess he understands that John just needed to say his side of things so they can move on. And I kind of think this is the end of the back and forth with them. It seems like Blake isn't holding anything against Katie and John. He even said, we wanted to diffuse the situation. I'm like, who's we? You and Katie? You, Katie and John? Like, it seems like they're all good here. So, I mean, everyone's kind of said their piece on that situation. So we're going to put it to bed for now here, at least on Shared News, until further notice. Because, things in Bachelor Nation always come up years later. We do have a few more updates that we're going to verge through. I guess we can call this the Fast Five or something. We need to think of a clever name, because I feel like every talk show does that. But some Bachelor news stories as well this week is that Hannah G and Dylan are wedding venue shopping in Italy. Hannah Brown and her boyfriend Adam have moved in together. JoJo is back from her bachelorette party as her wedding to Jordan approaches in the springtime. Jordan said it was 2 months away. Rodney just celebrated his 30th birthday and brought the top 4 guys from his season together: Brandon, Nate, Joe, and Rodney. Clayton was also there. And Joe and Serena are moving in together this week, apparently, in New York City, which means he is leaving Chicago. Allison, what are your hot takes on all the recent Bachelor news?
I'm a bit confused because Hannah and Dylan, we were just talking about put a pause on the wedding to get the house. Totally makes sense.
Yes.
Life is super expensive. You know, Gianna and I were just talking about we each have to plan a bachelorette party. Those are expensive. Like all of these things are such high ticket costs. So I guess maybe they're just planning super far in advance, but how did we jump from we're pausing on the wedding due to finances to we're moving the wedding to Italy? Because that sounds
Yeah.
really pricey to me. So I
Do you
have a
think
lot
it's
of
more
questions.
expensive though? Oh, like a wedding in Italy with 20 people, let's just say. Do you think that's more expensive than a wedding in San Diego with 200 or 300 people?
Are you paying for people's travel and accommodations? That's the question.
I
Because
would assume that
international
they
flights
would
are pricey.
help. True. I don't
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll pay for the travel.
I guess then it depends. Yeah, you could do a smaller one elsewhere. To each their own. It sounds gorgeous. I mean, clearly we got a lot of Italian weddings coming up, but that definitely surprised me.
Yes.
JoJo's Bachelorette was gorgeous. My sister was taking notes on it, and I had to inform her
Ooh.
that I was not wealthy enough to get custom embroidered hats like Becca Tilley did for JoJo. Sorry. But it looked great. And what else were we talking about? What were other fast facts?
Rodney's top four,
Oh.
Hannah Brown and Adam, Joe and Serena, which I know Gianna has an opinion on.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Gianna, do you wanna go?
Joe and Serena, like the whole thing for Joe was that he didn't want to leave Chicago. That's what caused him to break up with what's her face that ended up storming onto with
Kendall.
him and Serena. Kendall. That was like the whole premise of the downfall of their relationship, the breakup, the whole thing. He even mentioned it to Serena on the beach, I believe, when they were kind of picking at the future together. And now he's moving to New York. Like that is totally different. But I do have to say, I think that it's because when you find your person, like your actual person, and you know, like you're all in for them, you know, because it's like you're willing to make a sacrifice such as that for them. You know, I think we can all relate to that in our own lives. I'm sure we've been adamant about certain life choices that we're like, I'd never do this, I'd never do that. And then all of a sudden, this person we really like comes into our lives, and then you're like, okay, I'm a little more okay with doing this or doing that. So I get it, and I'm so happy for them. I really do love Joe and Serena together, so I can't wait to see what their life is like in New York, and I hope I bump into them. I'm in New York all the time. And I also have a hot take about Rodney's birthday party. The fact that
Okay.
Clayton was there, I saw a TikTok video and Clayton looked hammered out of his mind. They were like at this like private cabana by a pool. You could hear the music blasting. You could see the empty bottles all over the table. And Clayton's been doing pizza reviews. He's totally copying Dave Portnoy with Barstool, which is like making me angry for some reason because I'm like, dude, pizza reviews are already thing and it's Dave's thing, and like stop trying to make it your thing. And he did a drunk pizza review and I'm just not here for it. Sorry. Clayton, please stop.
Ooh. I think he's just trying to like, find his voice on the internet after being on The Bachelor. It sounds like he kind of wants to take a pause from the franchise. He was in this toxic, environment with like everyone coming at him for so long. Gianna, can't you just let the boy live? Let him get drunk. He literally just had the hardest like 4 or 5 months of his life. I mean, a lot of it was, what he put on himself. No one told him to break up with Rachel and Gabby in that way. But I think he just wants to have a little fun. Are you gonna get pizza with Clayton anytime soon, Gianna? Is that something you would be interested in? How do you think this is a better question, how do you think he would react to the pizza in Boston?
Oh my God, I love all of that. First of all, let Clayton get as drunk as he wants. I'm not judging him for that. I'm drunk every day of the week, pretty much. But I think
Man.
that it's like he's totally copying an idea. And for me, like I am not like copying's the best form of flattery type of person. I'm like, you're literally copying me and you're being annoying. Please get away from me. Now, I am an avid foodie. My Instagram is more toward like food reviews now just because of my other job. So I am constantly eating things, and pizza is definitely in the equation for me as well, but I don't market it as a pizza review because again, that's Dave's thing. But if Clayton wants to come to Boston and eat some pizza, we can do it, and I will teach him how to market it in a different way to make it his own. And I think that he would absolutely love the pizza in Boston. I can already think of so many spots that I would take him to. And I'd be open to
Cool.
it. So, Clayton, if you're watching, if you want to come to Boston and eat pizza, I got you. Let's do it.
Gianna, I'm going to send this Clayton's way. I'm going to let my girl Susie know that you guys are going to go on this date, and I'm sure you guys will have to vlog it and let us know. Now, to kind of round things
Absolutely.
up, we know Gianna wants to go to every single Bachelor wedding. Allison, you only can go to one Bachelor wedding. Are we going to Hannah G and Dylan's? Are we going to JoJo and Jordan's, Kaitlyn and Jason's, Joe and Serena's, which doesn't seem to be planned yet? I know you have your own wedding you're going to for your sister, so where are we at here?
I had a feeling you were going to ask me this question, but I thought we'd move past it, and I thought you forgot. It's going to come down to JoJo and Jordan and Kaitlyn and Jason, because JoJo is my
Okay.
favorite Bachelorette of all time, and I've watched.
Ooh.
I have no words. I have no words. But you know, those
Period.
goodie bags at Kaitlyn's are going to be the scrunchies and the spade and sparrows. And who knows, maybe like a finance book from Jason. Like, they're just going to have so many
Ooh.
good things at that wedding. So I have to say Kaitlyn's.
Okay, final answer. Lock it in. Gianna, I don't want to escape you here. I know you want to go to every wedding, but if you had to pick, which is it going to be?
I was also going to say Kaitlyn's, but since Allison is going to Kaitlyn's, I'm going to go to JoJo's for her, just because I feel like this is like the prolonged wedding. Like, we've been just waiting and waiting and waiting, and now
True.
it's finally happening. So I want to be there for the big moment now that it's actually happening and not getting delayed again. So I'm going to say JoJo's wedding.
Okay, well, F all of that. I'm out to Italy with Hannah G and Dylan, so I'll let y'all know how that is, because I'm getting my Italy vacation, and of course the expenses will be paid by them because I'm showing up as a guest. So that is everything we have for you guys today. So let us know what you guys think of the hottest Bachelor Nation news stories of the week in the comments down below. And before you go, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell so you never miss out on any future Bachelor or Bachelorette news. As always, I'm your host, Zachary Reality, joined by Gianna Gravelisi and Allison Van Dam. Our social media handles are on the screen right now, so be sure to give us a follow. Come say hello. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye.